Time for the market report. Grain still reeling from a big drop not long ago.
And that's what we're talking about this week. But first, the numbers. We take a look at last week's biggest gains and losses, and then a look into why grains massively dropped in price. And finally, 2 weeks later, how does the market look now and what's to come? So, markets in general trending upward, albeit slowly. Row crops still moving down while livestock moving up. Let's take a look. Last week's biggest loss, down about 25 cents, soybeans, which is a near 2% drop from the previous week. Last week's biggest gain, lumber, up $32.50, over a 6% rise from the week before. So, 2 weeks ago, the grain markets began a fall that started small and grew as the week progressed. By the time it was over, corn down nearly $1, wheat down a whole $1, while soybeans unaffected. So, what caused it? According to market analyst Jeff French, this was a combination of weather improving crop conditions and timing with the end of the month, and therefore the fiscal year.
It's historical. You start Monday out on a nice big rally, especially in the corn. Monday evening, you get the ratings. It's some of the lowest rated corn that we've seen since 1988, and we just completely fall out of bed. Day after day, making new lows, new lows, new lows. For the week, corn is down more than 20%. That's the worst week we've had since October of 2008. You know, you got to remember, today was the last day of the quarter, last day of the month. You know, the funds, everything was just sell, sell, sell. So, you know, next week, we got a new month, we get a new forecast. We'll see how the markets react. The rain was the start. And again, we were down every day. We did have the rain that moved into Illinois. Now, it was accompanied obviously with high winds, but the trade will look at the rain more beneficial than the damaging winds. So we'll see if this pattern continues. The forecast says rains the next week as well. Again, tremendously oversold here, 14-month low close, but it will, in July, if there's rain falling in the I-states, it is hard to rally the corn price.
So how are things looking now 2 weeks later? Well, corn and wheat still down but slowly inching back up, but for how long? We'll see, but according to Analyst Kristi Van Ahn-Kjeseth, crop conditions mean prices could continue to rise.
I think you look at kind of crop conditions and you look at where we're at. The crop conditions are extremely poor, and we have 1 year to compare it to, and that's 2012. But now we have taken a very different turn than 2012, right? We're not as hot. We started to get the moisture. The extended forecasts look for more moisture. And now we're in this no man's land that's saying, what can we really do with this situation? And we have to remember that we got a whole lot of extra acres. And those extra acres, you know, the bigger the acre number, the harder it is to get to trendline yield. And so we know that that should be supportive of yield decline as well, along with poor conditions. But I also feel like you can just have that constant offset when you look at kind of the demand structure between exports. We're just so dismal on exports right now. Trying to get that. Our feed use is a very large number as well. Yeah, I think the biggest story with global corn production right now is coming out of Brazil. They have a very large crop coming. They're harvesting it right now. And we know that China's been very active buyers for soybeans out of Brazil and kind of coming and looking at their corn. And so, yes, you do have some issues that relate back to Russia and Ukraine and the Black Sea deal, but I really think on the bigger picture here when you look at production is the fact that Brazil has a very large crop coming and they are a lot cheaper than us. Anytime you're getting rain during this season, it's going to tamper a bull's relationship, right? So we're starting to get those rains in so many areas. You continue to forecast better chances of precipitation. And I also think, 2 weeks ago, you were looking at beans and you're saying, man, those beans look really rough. And now you're driving around and they're starting to look a lot better. And so I think even that sentiment of saying, hey, these beans are really coming together, and I'm driving down here and our beans don't look great. It took them a long time to get out. We were so dry for so long. In fact, if you planted them in corn stubble, it was like 3 weeks that they sat in there and didn't do anything. And so you have this domestic story, right? And you have the reason to believe that corn or beans could be very supported for quite some time, especially if we start to see yield decline, which people are expecting us to come and see. We know that crush is very strong. So you do have that export. We're at like a fraction of what we should have booked right now for export sales for new crop. And so we know all those things, but I think when you look at beans, there's enough friendly information on the table. I think also something that probably brought sellers out to this is the relationship between corn and beans is very, very wide. And anytime you start to look at that from an investment perspective or a trend perspective, you might have people saying, I'm willing to step into this spread here and be a buyer of corn and a seller of soybeans for the time being to see if that spread itself corrects itself, treating them together versus separately.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets.